Hello and welcome everyone to this research session today. I am Camila. I am a customer and community manager at Verbi MAXQDA, and once a month I moderate the research session. For those of you who are not familiar with this format, the research sessions take place approximately once a month and are a special event by our community for our community. So they are a bit different than our courses or webinars because the purpose of these sessions is to get to know you and see how and in what areas and disciplines you are using MAXQDA. And we are interested in hearing about your experiences with the software and all your interesting projects, of course. This means that these research sessions are open to everyone. And if you are working with MAXQDA and would like to present your research, you are more than welcome to hold a research session as well. And today's session will be held by Theresa Demanuele Montebello, and I'm really delighted to welcome you as our speaker. Welcome, Theresa. And Theresa graduated as an accountant and worked in the industry for several years. She then transitioned into teaching and is currently employed as a senior lecturer at Malta College of Arts, Science and Technology. In short, it's MCAST. And she completed her master research in 2020, and now she's pursuing a professional research doctorate in the competitive behavior of small organizations at MCAST in Malta. And today she will talk about research practice through MAXQDA, applications in literature review, methodology, and the presentation of findings. And I am personally very excited to learn more about this topic and how MAXQDA can be used for these purposes. And just for the others, after the session, we will have like 15 to 20 minutes of a Q&A session. So please feel free to post your questions during or after the presentation in the Q&A section you can see in the bar below. And then when we want, we can have a little discussion later. So, okay, I think I've said enough. Let's dive into the topic and the talk. Theresa, the virtual stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I feel very honored to be given this opportunity to share with you best practices and experiences that I've acquired over time. And I look forward to welcoming you to this session and also to the discussions that will follow in the session and hopefully even in the future after the session. I would really like to get in touch with all of you, and we can also share ideas in the future. Hello, everyone. My name is Theresa Demanuele and Montebello. Most of my colleagues refer to me as Theresa Demanuele. Today, in this session, we're going to discuss research practice through MAXQDA, applications in literature review, methodology, and presentation of findings. Just to give you a little background about myself, I come from the sunny island of Malta, so greetings from Malta, where our country is well known for being rich in history, culture, food. We have lovely beaches. I hope that you will one day be visiting us and that we will be meeting in the future. And we are also very glad to be associated with being warm people and welcoming. Some of my background has already been shared with you all. I've chosen this picture specifically because I feel that, first of all, the beach is very much at my heart. That is a really lovely place in St. Thomas Bay, which is near where I live, because I live in Marsascala, Malta. But the picture reminds me that I am going through a journey as part of my studies and also in my career. I have been first introduced to MAXQDA during my PG Cert in Research Methods at MCAST when I was pursuing my Master's in Research. I am very grateful to our doctoral team, especially to my supervisor, which is Dr. Ronald Aquilina and Dr. Alex Rizzo, who were part of the doctoral team, and they have introduced MAXQDA to us as students, lecturers, and they have also obtained the license to have the use of MAXQDA within the research community, the students and lecturers. I have found that this has given me, colleagues and students, a world of opportunities. Even it has given us a new perspective into data analysis, research, but I also use MAXQDA not only for analyzing data, but throughout my research doctorate, I am also using it for literature review and also for research methodology, obviously for data analysis, and also for presentation of findings. And I find that this enables me to be able to present my findings. I back up what I discuss, what I put forward, etc. And I look at it as a journey, as I'm sailing in the waters of MAXQDA, always eager to learn more. Very useful. One thing that was very useful for me was attending the Max Days in Berlin in 2024, I believe. And the year I'm not very sure about, but I remember it was in Berlin. It was very interesting, and very useful resources are available on the website. And it is very good to have a look at them and also go through the tutorials and so on, even from time to time, to refresh our memories. I've been working with MAXQDA for the past 9 years. For my studies, I mainly use grounded theory, but I also use it for my research and when I supervise students for their dissertations. I specialize in qualitative research, and in the case of my students at degree level, which is level 6 in Malta, we encourage them, or I encourage them, to use MAXQDA, and very often they use thematic analysis or reflexive thematic analysis by Brown and Clark. I also encourage them to make use of the visual tools in their presentation of findings, which makes the data more valid, and it is backing up what you are stating. And I will show you some examples as we go along. So, as I said, MAXQDA is a useful tool to organize the data, to code the data, to analyze it, to use visual tools, to present the findings, and I also find that it helps us make our work look more professional. This is the website where we can visit and have a look at the resources, etc. I can also assure you that the MAXQDA team, I found them very helpful and supportive, and they've offered me also this opportunity to participate and to deliver this session. So, in this case, I have included a screenshot, and this screenshot shows part of a research of an article published in a research journal, and there is the reference in the references list attached at the end of the presentation, and it is one way how the authors have presented their discussions, etc. Here, this research article has been prepared by the doctoral team at MCAST, which is composed of Dr. Alex Rizzo, Dr. Ronald Aquilina, and Dr. Rose Falzon. In this research article, they have spoken about the use of MAXQDA, etc. They have also discussed the sampling strategy, the coding, etc. But here they have also included, because they wanted the audience to understand how they have approached coding. Okay, So, for example, they have included the screenshot and then explained how they coded the data. There is also in MAXQDA, when we use MAXQDA, we can also explain, as part of the, for example, of the research methodology in this case, they have explained the coding, the use of comments, and they have explained the coding strategy. And that is one aspect that we can include in our research methodology write-ups. How we did the coding, the use of comments and memos, reflexive notes, etc. And we can present these in our write-ups, whether it is a dissertation, a research paper, an article, whatever. As we go along, I tried to show practical examples, which I have taken from research articles, from my work, other authors, etc. Now, when we use MAXQDA, what we do is we create a project. Okay, so we create a new project, we upload the necessary documentation, and here, okay, so what I did was I went next to comments. As you can see in this, there is import documents. I can also create document groups, new document groups. And in the new document groups, what I did was that I have created these groups according to my needs. Here in this project, I have included literature review, and it is literature relating to the research topic. And I also like to include literature relating to research methodology. For example, here I have included research methodology documentation, research methodology textbooks, research methodology journal articles. For example, the article which I showed the screenshot in the previous page is by Rizzo et al. 2024. Okay? And there I know that in that particular article, I have information and diagrams that I can refer to and also include in my research methodology write-up section. And these relate to coding, sampling, etc. So I can also add comments next to the document. Here, I can add a memo, and there I would make points what this journal article is specifically useful for. For example, this article, which is the one which is highlighted, Demanuele Montebello 2019, which is a research work that I had conducted, I included it in this part, in this file of MAXQDA, because I feel that the research methodology that I had compiled, I can also use it for further research studies, parts of it at least, because then you always improve and you can also always increase the information, update it, and so on. So I create a project, I name it, I upload the necessary documentation, and I organize it in document groups. Here I've organized, for example, research methodology, okay, and information or articles or dissertations relating to the topic of female entrepreneurship. My research area for my research doctorate is female entrepreneurship in Malta, and it is a grounded theory study. So in my research methodology section, I have organized the document groups, and there are documents relating to different areas, which may be specific, for example, to grounded theory. I may also add a document group relating to thematic analysis. I may add a document group relating to sampling, for example. You can amend as you wish. Something which I would like to share with you, which I find quite useful, is that I prepare, for the purpose of this session, I have prepared this document and I continued to build on it. Now, at a later stage, I can also use this project and merge it with another project or with a new project. So, for example, if you want to work on preparing a research paper that you would like to submit, there is nothing stopping you from using this information, having a new project, and adding new material. The MAXQDA is very flexible, and you can also sort of highlight areas that you will need, select what will be relevant, and so on. When I organize the documents in document groups, I also do coding of the data. Okay? So here, because I have created this for the purpose of this session, as you can see, it's not very populated and I don't have too many data incidents, but in reality, we will have more data incidents and I will show you more examples as we go along. So here, we have the codes, and MAXQDA will also help you to organize the data, to organize the category schema, and so on. Now, as I mentioned before, we can use the memos and comments. Now, what is the difference between these? First of all, in a memo, I like to refer to it even with my student. It's like a sticky note, you know, where you write relevant reflexive notes, etc., relating to this study. It may also enable you to write comments such as the participant was very emotional when she was talking about what led her to opening up a business. For example, she shared how the hardship of a separation and the need to start afresh has given her a motivation which was very strong. And you may reflect also that you have observed a sense of female empowerment and so on. So those are reflections. And the comments, which are here, so the yellow ones are comments. Sorry, the yellow ones are memos. These, the ones here, right? The ones where the dot is a little bit darker, those are comments. And you can also use retrieve segments in order to view the comments. Now, using MAXQDA for data analysis. So this is a screenshot from research that I was conducting. And here, as you can see, there is a memo here where, for example, I have discussed points relating to support, business growth, etc. I have also included memos. Here I have not used comments in this part, but because you do not need to elaborate on all the comments, on the ones that you think need to be expanded on. On the left-hand side, as you can see, there are the cases. Now, a case is referring to an interview, and these are codes that I have used for the participants. And here I have the number of data incidents, And next to each case, I have a memo. In that memo, I normally write information which is more specific regarding either the participant or the background of the participant or, for example, the family responsibility, anything which is relevant for me, for my research. And I try to keep some points which are standard and I note them for each participant, and there will be ones which will be specific. Then here we have because I use grounded theory and I also utilize the conditional consequential matrix by Corbin and Strauss. And as you can see, the data, there are the main categories and then there are the subcategories. Okay, so this is my category schema. When obviously if I press on this on MAXQDA, I will expand it. But this the conditional matrix indicates and groups the data into contextual conditions, actions and reactions, and consequences and outcomes. And then this is further subdivided. However, it is recommended that you do not have too much subcategories, that you would have the main category, a subcategory, and to the most another subcategory, but do not keep expanding it. I mean, having a lot of subcategories. Now, let me go to the previous slide before this. As you can see in the screenshot on the right-hand side, there is sign in there. Normally, we sign in, you would have your email address, you'd have a password, and you sign in to MAXQDA so that you will be able to use the feature of AI Assist. Now, what is AI Assist? I will explain it in more detail now. So, the use of AI Assist, it should be used wisely. It is a useful tool to assist, but not to do the work for you. Now, why is it important that we do not just rely on AI Assist? It is important that the researcher has a very important role in carrying out the research. The researcher needs to become part of the data and not ask the software to do the analysis for him or for her. The researcher has to be part of the data, part of the research process. It is a tool, and this tool, together with MAXQDA, so the AI Assist, together with the software tool itself, it enables the researcher to elicit rich insights from the data. But, therefore, what is the best way to go about this? The best way to go about this is to first give your interpretation. Do not rely on MAXQDA AI Assist to create the codes. Do the coding yourself, and then, if necessary, check about the codes. But the first things need to be done from you, from within you, and not so as to avoid bias. And this is very important. Now, as I said, different document groups may be created. It's up to you how to create it. You can be innovative. You can try out different ways. You can move documents, etc. One thing that I would like to emphasize is this. Whenever you use MAXQDA, for example, I've used a MAXQDA file for this session. What I do is I save it with, for example, today's date. And if I use it again another time, I save it as the version with the date of that time. Why? Because if something happens and you lose the connectivity, sorry, you use the information that you had, the file, or your computer gets lost or stolen or damaged and you cannot retrieve the data, at least you would only have maybe a day's work which was lost. What I also do is that I send an email with my MAXQDA files, maybe to myself or to my husband, so that we would have a backup of the project. So that if something happens, it would have a recent uh, availability of a saved MAXQDA file. Now, how can I organize the literature review on research methodology? So basically, as you can see on the left-hand side, all right, on the left-hand side, there is, there are different document groups, okay? Now, this is a different example that I have used. There are different document groups, and there are the names of the document groups and the names of the journal articles, books, textbooks, reports, or whatever. Okay? And here I also have the codes. For example, I have included theoretical sensitivity, abduction, and so on. Now, what is the benefit of having the literature on research methodology organized on MaxQDA? It is so when I am also um, preparing a write-up and including the research methodology section, and I'm writing, for example, I am discussing abduction, and I may need to refer or include a quote or state what an author said. I can either go to the code section here and I see where these things were discussed, because I can just click on it and it will indicate from which sources there were the quotes or data incidents. And there is also the retrieved segments, and I can also prepare a report and extract it. Now, I have also included this power in this presentation. I have also included documents, for example, about grounded theory. As you can see, there is no standardization how the documents were referred to and were saved. Now, I did it specifically on purpose. This is not the best way how to do it. So, what would you keep in mind when you are organizing this? So, basically, what we need to do is, sorry, I suggest that maybe you include the authors and the year, so that when you are also referencing it, excuse me, when you are referencing this part, you can also refer to the authors. But here, for example, in the first one, Berks and Mills, I did not include the year. So I can always improve it. I click on it and I rename the document. On another thing, for example, here I have Sharmat's 2006. I have Sharmat's 2016. Sorry, 2015. And so, as you can see, some of them are more detailed, some of them need to be improved, but that is something that can be done. Excuse me. Now, how do I use MaxQDA to present my findings? My findings may be useful to be presented in presentations, like, for example, what I'm doing today, in a report that I may need to prepare, in journal articles, which is an example here. For example, the authors here have used the MAXQDA screenshot and further amplified it for the research paper, which was about coding of data incidents and compiling reflexive memos. Okay, and this is explained in more detail. You can add on, for example, this writing in red and the arrows, they were further included in the write-up of this research paper. In dissertations, for example, I have included screenshots in my dissertation for my master's in research. I encourage my students to always include screenshots in the presentation of findings for the research study, and also to include information about the methodology and use of visual tools in their write-ups for the dissertation. Now, why is it important to have these screenshots? These screenshots are important because you are backing up what you are discussing. You are giving information about how you came to those conclusions. And we will use visual tools in order to back up what we are stating. And I will provide some examples on those. This is an example by a colleague of mine from MCAS. Her name is Carmelina Frendo. And in her research paper, she has included a screenshot of the coding constructs. Okay. I have some links here, and there are also links at the end with the references list. For example, another example would be to include a screenshot of the code matrix browser. Excuse me. So, as you can see, I have included a screenshot of the code matrix browser here, and visually, without sort of knowing the research area in detail and so on, you can see that the larger and the darker the dot is, it means that there were more data, more hits, sort of more data incidents, etc. And you can also compare. You can compare which area was given most importance and so on. For example, here we have quite a lot of challenges that were discussed by almost all of the respondents, and even the motivating factors. If you can also further include more detail, because if you click on the arrow, it would open up and you would have the challenges listed. So when you are discussing the challenges, you can also prepare and present a screenshot of the challenges part, showing all the challenges, all the motivating factors. And from there, you can present the findings and the conclusions, because, for example, you can indicate that having a better work-life balance was one of the motivating factors for female entrepreneurs, and that would be backed up by by a screenshot showing what you are stating. This is another example where here I have used MAXMaps, for example, to show the hierarchical code and subcodes model. And here I have a code is consequences and outcomes from Strauss and Corbin matrix, and there are the recommendations within that section, and these are further subdivided into the main recommendations, which, for example, relate to support and incentives, education-related incentives, business-related matters, entrepreneurs' well-being, the personal characteristics of females. And these would also give you an indication of the areas that you would like to elaborate further on, to discuss in more detail, and so on. So it will help you to present your findings, but also to organize yourself about the most important topics to discuss in your write-ups. Here is an example of the two cases model, which I have used in a presentation that was delivered at WCQR conference in Poland in 2015 in February. I had given a presentation and I have presented this as part of my PowerPoint presentation. This is the two cases model. So in my research, I have basically, I am focusing on female entrepreneurship in Malta. And I have two groups. I have full-time entrepreneurs and part-time entrepreneurs. So this is the full-time and this is the part-time. Okay, for example, I'm inventing now. Let's say I had 16 entrepreneurs and I had 8 full-time and 8 part-time. So through the two cases model, what I did, which was sort of done through the press of a button within the visual tools category, I have compared what is common between the full-time and the part-time entrepreneurs here, which is the middle section. On the left, I have what the topics sort of that were not common to part-time entrepreneurs. Here, I have topics which are sort of exclusive to part-time entrepreneurs. For example, here, as you can see, being an educator was something within this group, which is common, but which was not common with the full-time entrepreneurs. What was common was the family responsibilities of the entrepreneurs, the costs. The age group was also quite common, and so on. Okay? So here you can further present and you are comparing the data that you have collected. It could also be how you present your arguments or the discussion for a research paper where, for example, I would present or write up a research paper about the motivating factors of female entrepreneurs in Malta, a comparative study between full-time entrepreneurs and part-time entrepreneurs. Here is an example which I have selected from the MCAS Journal of Applied Research and Practice, and this is basically where Terribile et al. Have presented the emergent constructs within the actions and reactions category. For the purpose of this presentation, I have referred to different research papers, and there is the list at the end of the presentation. I would like to suggest that there is this article, which is very important and relevant for those who conduct research. It discusses the grounded theory as a methodology, and it also discusses how you basically can adapt certain ideas. For example, I have read and found very interesting about the coding strategy, that there are 4 different stages of coding. And for example, in my case, I could also relate to this because I had, in relation to the sampling strategy, it explains it very well. And I have utilized it in my write-ups obviously with the permission of the authors. And something I would like to add is that in MAXQDA, there is also the logbook, where as you go along, you can log. For example, I have included a screenshot of my of this an important feature of the article. I have included the screenshot in the logbook. And for example, if I find an interesting diagram or maybe something useful, I also use the logbook. And the logbook would also serve as a diary for me to know, for example, what I did on that day. Something very important about the use of the logbook is in order, for example, to have notes relating to theoretical sampling and when you reach theoretical saturation, because you need to prove how you have come up with theoretical saturation. And there in the logbook, if you, for example, note that you are at the point of participant 35 and no new theory is emerging, and for example, you are going to do 36, you log if something emerged. If nothing emerged, nothing new emerged, you log again. And you, for example, conduct like 3 extra interviews to prove that there was theoretical saturation. This has to be proven. So you do not just state that you reach theoretical saturation. Now, you can log that in the logbook as you go along. I remember when I attended the WCQR in 2025 in Poland, I attended a seminar that was delivered by Professor Elaine Keane, and she specifically spoke about this, proving that you do not just state you have reached theoretical saturation, but you have to prove it. Now, how do you prove it? Because if you refer to the logs, you also have backup where you reached it, that you conducted further interviews to prove it, and from the 5 interviews, it was in fact proven. Now, here are the links at the end of the presentation, and I would like to, this is time for questioning, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank you all for listening, and I look forward to sharing ideas and discussions.